The Carolina Panthers' first preseason game of 2025 is officially in the books, losing a rather boring game if you were a Carolina Panthers fan to Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. There were some flashes as well as some leaks shown on both sides of the ball. So in this video, I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on what I saw in the game and give you some notable winners and losers for preseason week 1. And we are going to get into all of that right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K. Just trying to make sure this channel continues to grow throughout the season. And as a special note, I would like to announce that throughout the rest of the year leading up to December, both me and my wife-to-be have pledged that we will match any proceeds that are accumulated by whether it be ads on this channel or just possible donations in the future. We would like to sponsor as many Angel Tree kids as we possibly could through the Salvation Army this upcoming year. So I would like to thank everyone that watches this video in advance. You are doing a service to the community as well as putting smiles on a bunch of young faces out there. So I appreciate you. So to get all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about some football. So to give you my thoughts on this overall game, there were just a few things that jumped off at me. I'm not going to be one of those people that overreacts to a preseason game, although I do believe that there are some things that you can take away and there are some things that you can say or extrapolate from what you saw quarter to quarter. I believe as a whole, this is just something that you have to put behind you. After the first two drives, there were a bunch of people that maybe won't even be in the NFL out there occupying the field and defending against the Cleveland Browns. So it's not much to overreact to, but one of the few, the first thing that jumped off at me jumped out at me is immediately the change in philosophy that you could see just a few plays into the second drive where the Carolina Panthers attempted that big shot down the field. Bryce Young loaded it up, sent it down the sideline for a jump ball to Shedeur McMillan where he was able to bring it in, get both feet down, and show what many people said he'd be able to do pre-draft and what a lot of us Panthers fans are hoping that he'll be able to do throughout his hopefully very long career here with the Carolina Panthers. So just showing that new wrinkle, which is something that as we've seen Bryce Young in his young early career so far, other than Adam Thielen at such an advanced age at the very, very few times that he's actually able to do it, which is get downfield, we have not had a significant down the field threat that could take the top off since Bryce Young has arrived here in Carolina. We thought that Xavier Legette could potentially be that person last year. There were some flashes, but we still were not able to see him put that all together. But immediately when they get out here in the field in preseason game 1, we see what the philosophy will be. You saw just how much the Carolina Panthers are going to be giving Shedeur McMillan the ball. You could see that there was a concerted effort by all of the quarterbacks, or at least all of the ones that played alongside Shedeur McMillan, be it Andy Dalton and, of course, our starter Bryce Young. There was a concerted effort to get him as many balls as possible, especially after the ejection of Xavier Legette earlier. I would assume that he probably would have been targeted a little bit more than these other receivers, be it Adam Thielen or surprisingly Ja'Tavion Sanders, who didn't see much action at all. Shedeur McMillan was being somewhat force-fed, if I want to honestly admit it, but I believe that's what we're going to have to see, or what Dave Canales and this offensive staff plans to do with a top 10 overall pick that you bring into a offense that you're hoping to help excel a young third year quarterback. So I believe with the infusion of Shedeur McMillan, we didn't even get to see Hunter Renfrow tonight. Like I said, we didn't see much out of Ja'Tavion Sanders. I believe that overall, year to year, this is an undoubted strength now of the team, whereas it was a negative in the past 2 years. The Carolina Panthers wide receiver room is deep, and the top of that room is going to be Shedeur McMillan, and we got a glimpse into what he could do today. He did drop a touchdown pass, he immediately recognized what it was. He was a little late out of his break, a little late getting his head around. He got his hands up late, and the ball was on him before he even realized it. That's something that I can say I'm proud to see being taken care of early during his tenure. I would rather that happen in preseason game one than regular season game one. I'd rather he learn from that now, so that when the games that really matter get here, he'd already have that experience, already have that trial and that era behind him, so that we can move forward. So I like to see that, and I just, as I mentioned, Ted McMillan and what I saw out of the passing game is something that's very encouraging for me, and I'm pretty sure it's encouraging for a lot of other Carolina Panthers fans as well. Now, just keeping it on the topic of the offense, as we did see, or as I can attest to believing that, or I feel like what I saw out of the offense and what I saw out of the past games encouraged me more than it discouraged me. I feel somewhat of the opposite way about the Carolina Panthers offensive line. Now, both of these groups were lauded as being the most deep and the most the most talented groups on the team, and that's very warranted praise, as the offensive line is arguably the best unit on the team year to year, as they were the best on the team last year. Early in this game, we started our starting running back as well as our newly acquired running back, who both had 1,000-yard seasons behind very capable offensive lines last year, be it Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. Chuba behind our Carolina Panthers line, and Rico behind the Dallas Cowboys line. There was very little push up front during the beginning of the game. We went 3 and out early. We put the ball on the ground, or we put the ball in the running back's hands quite a few times early, but there was never very much push. I understand that Damian Lewis was actually out this game, and we had an undrafted guy that we picked up from the Bears, and Ja'Tyre Carter stepping in there in the starting role. But with there just being one guy out of place, cutting off that continuity, I expected there to be still a little more effectiveness with this offensive line. And when it came to run blocking, which essentially was their strength last year, I didn't see that being the case whatsoever out there on the field, and that was disappointing. But as I mentioned, we were missing a guy out there. They were trying Brady Christensen out there at that swing tackle position after re-signing him over the offseason. They threw him out there. He was having some mishaps out there on the left side, actually gave up a sack. So the offensive line, for being praised as being so deep and such a strength of a unit, I don't believe that was on display very much in this game right here. So hopefully by the time we play the Houston Texans this time next week, that unit will have it together a whole lot more, and we'll be able to see more out of the run game, as it was pretty much just non-existent today. Now, flipping it over to the defense, I want to talk about the fact that the defense was looking, or specifically the run defense was looking, a little suspect. And I saw a lot of leaks and a lot of, 4 yards here, 5 yards here, 6 yards there at very inopportune times, putting the Cleveland Browns in position in a short yard to go situations, allowing for Shedeur Sanders to either take advantage of the play action, or just get a quick slant, or whether it be a drag across the field, those short intermediate routes that were just able to take advantage of the zone that Ejiro Evero likes to deploy out there in those situations. The run defense was not holding up on the earlier downs to force them into tougher decisions or tougher passing plays when it came to those obvious passing downs. So with that being something that was such a weakness last year, I was hoping to see that be, much improved this year. I do and I will recognize that Derek Brown was not there, as he wasn't there for majority of the season last year, only playing in one game. But our newly acquired guys, be it Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, everybody else that we had, and all those big body guys that we added in the middle, they were not as stout at clogging up the run as I expected them to be. Although, and I said before, Derrick Brown is going to be the big man anchoring all of that whenever he does return from these injuries. I thought on their own individually, these guys did not show that level of stoutness that I thought that I expected from them, and that showed the most in the run game. So I need for that to be something that is fixed by next week to week, or especially by the time that September 7th gets here, because I will be down in Jacksonville week 1 as we destroy the Jacksonville Jaguars. But finally, man, I'm not one for throwing out hot. As I mentioned, it's preseason. I don't like to overreact to stuff, but if you call this a hot take, I guess you haven't really been paying attention to the defense so much when I say this. But seeing how the defense and even the starters struggled against the Cleveland Browns backups so frequently throughout the game, to the tune of them scoring 30 or more points. I can't remember what the exact score was, but I know they scored 30. So if we are instilling a message, what word am I looking for? Just a DNA. This is the DNA of the defense. This is what we do. This is how we play. Play like a Panther, to take another cliche from like the Ravens or whatever. This is how the Panthers play on defense. The severe drop off when the supposed depth pieces entered the game after the first or second drive was just atrocious. As I said, they allowed for backups to put up over 30 points, and I know that we'll say, well, the starting defense wasn't out there for majority of the game and this and that and the third. Well, the starting defense, and there were starters that were scattered throughout that first half, and those starters were not very effective at doing much of anything. We weren't very effective at getting to the passer, although we did get there a few times throughout the game. The pressure that you would expect to see on a backup offensive line and a rookie quarterback just was not there. And then the coverage was breaking down. We had DBs getting burnt left and right, and I can only attribute that to the coaching and this damn 3-4 defense that Ejiro Evero deploys out there on the field, that I'm honestly getting a little tired of seeing. I was calling for Ejiro Evero to be fired last year. If your rebuttal to that is he didn't have the guys in place to be able to run his system effectively, I can accept that. But what I won't accept is that we will continue to use that as an excuse year over year as we don't see any improvement. He has a say-so. He can get guys in the room. We drafted several defensive players. So when those players enter the game, when the players that you suggested come in free agency, and we have our rookie highly drafted players into the game, I don't expect it to be a severe drop off to the point where we are getting our asses waxed by backups. That just doesn't make any sense. And if you feel it's a hot take now, I don't really know what to tell you, but early, I don't care. Preseason game 1, Ejiro Evero, you are on my list. Your ass is on the hot seat. And if you're going at the end of the season, I don't even care. Playoffs or not, I'm tired of seeing this 3-4 defense. I understand that it would be hard to change after we've drafted for this over the last couple of years, but dog, it's just not hitting for me. It's just not doing it for me whatsoever, man. So after this, I am going to move into giving you all my winners and my losers for preseason week 1. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will be back with you right after this.
I'm from the foe. You dig?
So welcome back. This is Jamario Rashad, and the way I see it, we are discussing preseason week 1. I am going to get into the winners and the losers that I selected for this week. And just because I'm labeling them a winner does not mean that they are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And just because I label somebody as a loser of the week does not believe that I do not believe in their talents, nor that they will be a great player in the future. I am simply talking about what I felt about these performances that I saw on my TV screen, as well as my subsequent viewing of the game, highlights, whatever it be. I paid attention to the game closely, and these are my thoughts, not what I think of anybody's career, just what I saw on the game. Now that disclaimer's out of there, let's talk about these players. So Corey Thornton, undrafted free agent cornerback from Louisville. This has been a guy that, because training camp has been closed to fans, I have not been able to actually get out there and lay my eyes on very much. So I have not been able to see anything. All I have to take is, or the only opinions I have to go off of are the local beat writers, or maybe just if the coaches are asked about a specific player and their testimonial of what they have to say. That's pretty much all that we've heard about most guys. And Corey Thornton is one of those players that whose name just keeps coming up and coming up. Corey Thornton seems to be stepping in at practice whenever Mike Jack isn't able to play that number 2 spot, he steps in. But what more importantly, when J.C. Horn steps out, apparently this is when Corey Thornton steps in as well. Now, today was the first game that we were actually able to see Corey Thornton's talent out there. Now, you hear that he's 6'1", almost 200 pounds, big body guy, not scared of contact. But what we were able to actually see in the game validated every single piece and every single article that was written that mentioned his name so far. He was absolutely everywhere, whether it be stepping up and defending and almost power driving somebody in the run game, being all over wide receivers, getting PBUs. I know that he gave up a touchdown, but you have to understand that was just an excellent throw, an excellent catch. Sometimes, man, those guys on the other side get paid too. You have to tip your cap to them. That was still excellent coverage. This guy has shown that even being an undrafted guy, he has the potential to possibly be the Jalen Coker of the 2025 season as that undrafted free agent, or not even necessarily the Jalen Coker. Honestly, this year's Damani Richardson, but possibly could play an even bigger role, knowing just how much that cornerbacks are rotated in and out of there, and also just how volatile the health of our defensive backs can be. This guy could play or step into a large role early in his career, getting so many snaps over a guy like Shamar Bartholomew, who spent majority of the season with us last year with like Caleb Evans. This guy has proven to be the guy, and now that he went out there and he got his chance, he didn't squander it in any way, shape, or form. So for that reason, I believe Corey Thornton is an absolute winner for preseason week 1 and is a name to keep lookout for moving into the regular season. So the second player I want to highlight as a winner for preseason game 1 would be Carolina Panthers second round draft pick Nick Scorton. Now, the reason that I am going to give him this praise is because all of the information that was coming out of camp was that Princely Umamielen, our third round pick, was the one who was most impressive in camp so far. He was the one that had been most disruptive at actually getting to the quarterback, so much so that he had actually knocked the ball out of Bryce's hand on a strip sack when it wasn't even a period where the team was actually supposed to be hitting. They didn't even have pads on. That's how overzealous and just how energetic this guy was about doing the job of rushing the quarterback. So a lot of people were starting to wonder, okay, we love that we're hearing these things about Princely. We love that we're hearing these things about Princely, but we had another defensive player that was drafted above him who in theory is supposed to outperform him by way or just by proxy of their draft position, but there wasn't much coming out about Nick Scorton. So about a week or two ago, it came out, Dave Canales reports that there had been an injury. He was coming back. There had not been a concrete timeline, but he should be back, or day to day or whatever. So it surprised me today when he was actually active for the game. And of the two young pass rushers, the two young edges that we drafted this year, it was Nick Scorton who actually showed a more diverse way of actually impacting the game and being, as projected and as shown in the draft, a player who should show to be a little bit better earlier. Now, Princely, as I mentioned, is supposed to get to the quarterback. We know about the speed. But Nick Scorton, he got a sack, although it was just a chase down pressure sack. He wasn't able to, it wasn't off a spin move or anything like that. Like effort sacks still count as sacks. So outside of just getting to the quarterback, which is something very encouraging that you want to see out of your young pass rusher, Nick Scorton was not just getting escorted out of the way whenever the ball was being ran to his side. He did make an impact. He was able to set the edge. And of course, this is his first game in the NFL. There were times that he lost those blocks. There were a couple times that he did get washed out of the way. But for the most part, he did hold his ground and he was able to do his job. So knowing that and learning that in this game is a great sign after not getting much validation or much affirmation of hearing that he would be this guy coming out of camp. It's great to hear that he's validating his draft status. And as a Carolina Panthers fan, you just love to hear that your young guys are just actually out there doing things like this, or not even hearing, actually seeing your guy out here doing what you drafted him to do. So Nick Scorton is undoubtedly a winner for this week, man. So now we move into a player that started making his mark as an undrafted rookie last year, who is continuing to progress and has shown to be a guaranteed key part of this team's secondary moving into 2025, that being undrafted free agent Damani Richardson out of Texas. Damani is just somebody who, after being thrusted into the game, after being thrusted into a spot last season due to the injury of the starters ahead of him, he would be somebody to go on to lead the team in tackles during his time as a starter. Somebody that wasn't drafted, but somebody that made the team outright from camp. Somebody that the team said that we cannot allow this guy to go on waivers because we do not believe that he would make it around to us. He is validating the team's belief in him, coming back and being such an effective part of this team so far. He's in coverage. He will thump somebody in the run game, and he showed his versatility even getting to the quarterback on a safety blitz this game. Damani Richardson is just showing that the Carolina Panthers, although we didn't go out there and sign a big name veteran free agent at this safety spot that a lot of people, including myself, very much wish that we did, we have a young player who looks to be ready to take over that spot and be an impactful player in his second year in the league. And, that's very, I'm going to keep using this word, it's validating to see those things with your own eyes, because, of course, it's only been hearsay so far. So shout out to Damani Richardson for continuing to progress, continuing to be a beast out there on the field, man. So the last winner that I'm going to discuss is actually somebody that is in their second year, who is just continuing to make their mark as an undrafted free agent, similar to the player that I just mentioned in Damani Richardson, and that being wide receiver Jalen Coker. Now, if you follow the channel last season, if you follow me on socials, you know exactly how I feel about Jalen Coker. I believe in a perfect world, and if the NFL truly worked the way that they say that they worked, and the best player gets on the field, and it has nothing to do with draft politics, it had nothing to do with salary politics, I wholeheartedly believed that Jalen Coker showed to be a better wide receiver last year than Xavier Legette did. That's not me saying I'm down on XL, but I just truly believe that Coker, because he was undrafted, didn't get the credit outside of the Carolina Panthers fan base that he deserved for being as good as he was as a rookie and being as effective as he was, being somebody that came in, I believe he missed the combine. He didn't make the team initially, didn't start getting consistent snaps until after injuries occurred, and none of that deterred him at all. All he did was keep his head down, come in and ball, and he continued to show even today that he is going to be a fixture in this offense. Now, the reason that I'm listing him as a winner isn't even necessarily because of the touchdown or the crazy catch that he had throughout the game. It's the fact that with performances like this, what he is doing is cementing himself in the future of this team, or at least in the near future of this team. There's a lot of talk going around about just how many wide receivers the Carolina Panthers are going to be willing to keep on the roster. Is it going to be 6? Will they be willing to go to 7? You know, do the later guys on the roster have to play special teams? All that. Now, a lot of people are saying Jalen Coker could be one of those guys near the back end of the wide receiver room, and I truly don't believe that. I don't care that we're signing. I don't care that we signed Hunter Renfrow. I understand that we signed that we drafted Teteroa McMillan. At the end of the day, when you have a young talent the likes like this that is showing that he is somebody that is going to be a force to be reckoned with on your team, that is cost controlled for the next few years of his career, because he did go undrafted. You owe him very little money. You can get in there and pay him early, get him at a great salary. Looking forward to possibly Adam Thielen retiring or possibly leaving, or whether trades go down over the next season. You have an insurance policy and a young dynamic wide receiver who just shows that he is here to stay, and none of the free agent acquisitions matter. None of the draft matters. This guy is somebody who is going to be a fixture on the team, and I just have to say, he showed that in this game, and I want to give a shout out to him for his performances. Now, if you're still with me, I want to give you a shout out and say thank you. I know I'm going a little bit long in this video, so I definitely appreciate you sticking in there with me. We only have one more segment, and that is when we have to switch over and get to a bit of what could be perceived as negativity, but I'm going to call it encouragement, and we are going to talk about the unfortunate losers of this game, and we are going to talk about a player that I've mentioned quite a few times throughout this video so far, that being third round edge Princely Uman-Mielen, somebody that had been getting a lot of praise out of camp because of his quickness, because of his ability to get to the quarterback, and just for being a dog, having the mentality that we have been missing in the Carolinas for a long time, that I believe that the defense definitely needs. He did not show, or he did not flash the way that many of us were led to believe that he would. We did see a camp clip the other day where he was going against he was doing a drill against a Cleveland Browns offensive lineman, and he actually was, just basically pressed to the ground. You try to use all that speed against a ginormous human being who can literally use their leverage from being damn 8 feet tall and shove you to the ground, and you're a speed guy. It's going to take him a minute to learn how to adjust and actually use more so his power and develop a pass rush repertoire, whether it be a spin move, whether it be a chop, whether it be whatever he's able to develop throughout his many trainings, throughout his years in the league. Those are going to be things that might need to be expedited before we actually see Princely be the player that we truly believe that he could be. There's no confidence that should be lost in him whatsoever. This is this guy's first preseason game, but for what we've heard so far out of how he's been dominating our offensive line, it would have been nice to go out there and to see him go out there and do that to the Cleveland Browns backups, because our offensive line is supposed to be a strength. That's their backups. So it raises more questions than it does build confidence. So for those reasons, and pretty much specifically, I have to go back to something before I get off of Princely. The knock on him coming into the league, coming into the draft, was his ineffectiveness against the run game, and I have to say that was 1,000% on display throughout this game. Princely was getting stonewalled play after play over there on the left side of the line, and he was not very effective at all when it came to actually being a factor in the run game because he could never get off that block. He was never setting the edge because he was never actually able to adjust and actually get the bend to get to the edge. I'm not saying that you're not going to be able to pull a play where he won and he made it happen, but the majority of the plays that he spent in the snaps on the field, he was getting washed in the run game. Unfortunately, that's something that he's going to have to work on. As I mentioned, that's just another thing that he's going to have to put into his repertoire before we're actually able to see him be the player that we hope he could be. So the next player I'm going to discuss might be somebody that you all have never even heard of, but I'm going to get to the reason why I'm mentioning them in a moment. So the second player that I believe is going to be that was a loser in this game is a free agent acquisition coming from this offseason, a wide receiver in Bryson Tremaine. Now this guy was brought in, and it was pretty much known that if he was going to make the team, that he was going to be somebody that was going to be a special teams ace, make an impact, whether it be covering kicks, covering returns, doing all of those things on the defensive side of the special teams. The reason I'm saying that he is a loser is because I didn't see him being very much effective in his role as a gunner. He had a one-on-one shot in the middle of the field on one of the punts and got shook out of his shoes. Now, the reason that this is so disappointing is because we saw the Carolina Panthers let go of our former All Pro special teamer in Sam Franklin Jr., who I believe is now with the Chargers. We had somebody that we had been carrying on the roster for the last 2 seasons who hadn't very much contributed to the defense at all, but had shown to be a very effective gunner on defense himself in the former linebacker edge rusher Amari Barno. Those two players were somebody that former the special teams coordinator Chris Tabor showed a lot of confidence in, and that the Carolina Panthers, like I believed that they valued a lot, carrying somebody an entire season with a torn ACL, not even like pretty much making the team without even having to try out. I'm talking about Amari Barno last year. I thought the sole reason for that was so that he could come back and be this special teams role or this special teams gunner in the absence of Sam Franklin. That didn't happen. Both those guys are gone, and the guy that we brought in to do that is Bryson Tremaine, and so far he wasn't able to do that at all. He didn't have a single catch as a wide receiver. So if he's not going to be excellent as a special teams guy, nor is he going to be a wide receiver, I don't see him being on the team very long. I don't even know if he'll make it to week 2. That is unfortunate because we still don't know who that guy's going to be for us on special teams, and that you don't want for those few plays throughout the game to be able to impact just how good this offense could potentially be, or possibly just how good this defense could be because of the mishaps and the inability to just run simple everyday plays. So unfortunately, Bryson Tremaine is a loser in this situation. So the third player we're going to talk about, 4th round running back Trevor Etienne out of Georgia. Now, the reason I am going to say that Etienne is a loser isn't necessarily because he muffed the punt, which is, you can't do that. Gotta catch the ball, can't lose it in the lights. First game, I get all that. It's not necessarily that. It was the snap distribution on offense that made me believe that he isn't going to be very effective, or not even effective. I take that back. Effective isn't a word. He isn't going to be utilized very much On the offensive side of the ball, I believe he only got I'm going to say less, 3 or fewer carries throughout the game as an actual running back. And then he had his opportunities as a returner. He muffed it. He messed that up. And then you saw and you know that 6th round draft pick Jimmy Horn Jr., somebody who can fight all he want. It is a very, very, very uphill battle for him to be an active wide receiver moving forward on the roster. So his primary role is assumed to be kick returner, something that Trevor Etienne also wants to do. So if he's not going to get very many snaps as a running back, and he's also not going to be back there to consistently return kicks, which we don't know that for a fact right now. But if I had to guess off what we've seen in the performances today, I would say that they would prefer Jimmy over him. I don't necessarily know what Trevor's role is going to be. We saw what the third running back did, how many snaps the third running back got last year, and it was very, 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 very few, less than I believe 80 yards total on the year for the third string running back, and that just doesn't spell well for Trevor Etienne. So I am going to package the Trevor Etienne point with the final loser being Raheem Blackshear, the player that was honestly in this ETN role last year as the third running back, or the perceived third running back, after drafting Jonathan Brooks and having Chuba as our starter. We had Raheem Blackshear as a somewhat of an insurance policy. He's been on the roster for, I believe, 3 seasons now after we signed him off the Bills practice squad. Raheem Blackshear got 1 carry in this game as a running back, and he also was pretty terrible in the return game, as he was an average to a less than average player at best at returning over these last couple of years, and he showed no signs of being any better at it at this point. So similar to how I feel about Trevor Etienne, if you're going to be a running back who isn't going to get carries, who is going to be behind 1,000 yard workhorse backs in Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, you aren't going to be a third down receiver, because Rico Dowdle is going to be that, as he can catch passes. What exactly is your role going to be on this team? And honestly, in my opinion, he will have none. Unlike Trevor Etienne, who I believe will still be on the roster as a drafted player, and a role will be cut out for him over the next year or so, coming years, we won't see it. It just maybe won't be this year. Raheem Blackshear, I believe, is pretty much done. There's no place and no reason to have him on the roster. We have kick returners, we have running backs, we have punt returners. Raheem Blackshear, in my opinion, just I didn't believe he had very much value still coming into this season, and what he put on tape today pretty much validated my thoughts on that. So Raheem Blackshear, Trevor Etienne, unfortunately, you these back of the depth chart running backs, returners, they're losers for this week, and I don't really necessarily see that changing throughout the season. So with that being said, man, those are my thoughts on preseason game 1. Man, I am back. It is good to be back on YouTube. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. As I mentioned earlier in the video, all proceeds from this video are going to be given to the Salvation Army, or I am going to use them. Me and my fiance are going to use them to sponsor as many Angel Tree kids as we can. Christmas is coming up, and I would like to give back. And what other way? I cannot think of a better way to do that than to actually use the money that I earn just talking about my favorite team, doing something that I would absolutely do for free to enrich the lives of somebody else. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for doing that, man. But I'm gonna stop talking about that. Get back to football. What do you all think about this about my breakdown, about the winners, about the losers? How do you feel about preseason game one? I know I didn't mention Andy Dalton. There's gonna be a lot of y'all hot that I didn't talk about Andy Dalton, man. He's a backup. I'm not gonna trip. If Andy gets in the game, we're screwed anyway, man. So shoot, F it, we ball. But with that being said, man, I'm going to get on out of here. I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.